So let's talk today about self worth and how it is one thing to say you know your self worth, and it's another thing to actually integrate it. And I think this is a really important topic that honestly I didn't really understand the distinction before. Like, I used to think that, like, if someone would have asked me, like, do you know you're worthy of this? Or, do you know that you're good enough for this? I would have been like, of course I do. But also, I've spoken on this before. I was the queen of like buying my own crap. Like, I had a very, I would say, shell of an exterior, tough exterior. In some ways a little bullish, when I was heavily out of balance and in my masculine, more definitely that. But also I really create this, perfectionism shell on the exterior. I prided myself on kind of having it all together all the time, looking a certain way, dressing a certain way, having a certain amount of things, always kind of knowing the right answer, always being there for people in sense of people pleaser, being someone that you could always come to and ask questions to, even when I didn't have the capacity, stepping in and helping people sometimes when they weren't even ready to help themselves, but I kind of always have had this pride of always doing the right thing, which isn't bad. Like that's obviously a good trait and quality to have. But a lot of the quote unquote doing the right thing was coming at the expense of myself. So I was showing up for everybody else, but not showing up in the ways that I needed. Now, the truth is, I didn't even know what I needed at that time. I had grown up with this survival strategy of thinking like, if I just kind of satisfy all the things around me, then that means I'm safe, I'm connected, I'm loved. And for the record, I grew up in a really loving family and household, but it doesn't matter. We're all going to develop some type of strategy, opinion, conditioning from our household environment, so that's how I got by. I just was the overachiever. I just did my best to be the quote unquote perfect kid, and that carried on into my career and my life. um However, that came at the expense of my well-being and at the expense of honestly just the relationship with myself. I didn't realize how severed the relationship myself was until I really started to do this work and honestly hit burnout, right? Because that is the root cause of burnout, is being disconnected. But like so many other people, I thought it was because I have all these things on my plate and I'm working too much, and I'm constantly have a full schedule and a busy life. And it's like, yeah, that adds to the burnout. But it's the fact that I feel like I need to show up for all these things and show up in a certain way and be perfect and not make mistakes and say yes to everything. That's what's burning me out, not the things itself. So, bringing it back to what I started with as far as, the self worth thing, when I talk about awareness versus integration, I think most people have awareness. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and really say, like, no, I'm not worthy of that. Some people might, or you might have days of questioning that or moments of questioning that. But all in all, I think most people know, like, yeah, I am worthy of, a healthy lifestyle and a healthy body and a healthy relationship and a roof over my head and a life that feels enjoyable and, peaceful. I think everyone knows from a very conscious level that they are worthy of all those things. But it's the subconscious that has created all these conditions that cause us to behave in ways we don't even realize, that may not actually be in alignment with your self-worth or whatever degree that is. Now, one thing I will bring up is that, you know, there is often a conversation around high self-worth and low self-worth. And in my opinion, self-worth is just self-worth. Like there isn't a scale to it. I think there's more of a scale to self-esteem, right? So some days you might feel better about yourself than others. But at the end of the day, we should just all know that we are worthy no matter what state we're in. Okay. So that means I am still worthy of a healthy life relationship, body, et cetera, even when I'm not having one of my best days, right? I might not feel as good about myself on those days, but that doesn't mean my quality life is any less deserving just because I wasn't as productive that day. I was more moody. I was more irritable. I maybe got in a fight with my spouse or friend or whoever, right? Like that doesn't adjust the fact that I am worthy of a healthy, loving, peaceful life, right? So, again, on one aspect, I think everyone knows from a conscious level that they can say that they're worthy. But what we always have to really look at is whether we're integrating that. And that means behaving and acting as though we are worthy. Now, again, I was the queen of thinking that I was treating myself that way, like I would get the massage when I needed to. I would buy myself the nice things. I would do all these quote unquote things that we've termed as self love and self care, And like, okay, there are aspects of that being self love and self care. However, none of that matters if I'm berating myself internally. I'm not allowing myself to rest when I need it. I'm not feeding myself healthy food or eating on a healthy schedule. I'm not getting good sleep. Like none of that overrides if I'm not taking care of my basic needs. Okay. Now, we have to really look at that a little deeper because most of us have been programmed to believe that, well, those things kind of get sacrificed when you're on a mission. Like if you're going after, maybe you have really big ambitious goals, you're chasing a certain target, you want to create a certain lifestyle for you and your family, you are trying to achieve something, like just whenever you have big goals, like yes, there's always going to be sacrifice, of course, but most of us attribute sacrificing our internal well-being in exchange for this goal. Okay. But if you actually look at that on a deeper level, what that's saying is you actually don't believe you're worthy of having said goal if you don't sacrifice yourself in the process, which then again is like, well, how worthy actually are you then? Because if we look at something that's high value, something that we put a lot of um, onus in, something that we really hold dear to our heart, or again, just high value, we do our best not to sacrifice any part of it. We do our best not to um, sacrifice the integrity of said thing, right? So, for instance, let's look at something like, let's look at a star athlete on a team, okay? You're LeBron James or whatever. You're the star athlete on the team. When a team has that much investment in a star player, they expect that star player to take care of himself to the best of his ability so that he can show up for the goal of the team, right? Now, again, is there a level of sacrifice involved as far as being in alignment with the goal? Yes. So the quote unquote sacrifice is making sure that he understands how valuable he is to that goal. But they're not, if he's not eating clean, if he's not investing in personal trainers and the best masseuses and even mindset coaches, rehab and recovery tools, saunas, ice baths, again, private chef with the highest nutrients. Like if the star athlete isn't investing in these things for him, or if the team isn't, they know they're compromising the integrity of their most valuable asset. They know he is worthy to, and again, it's in a limited scope because we're talking about a specific goal. But again, they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that the integrity of that value is not compromised. Okay. Now, look at another example of just even like children. Okay. I was recently on vacation in Hawaii with my family. My niece and nephew were there, and this had hit me. And I was thinking about my niece, and she's 9. And I thought about, just some of the things that I've dealt with as an adult. And, I've been in many situations where I've sacrificed my sleep and sacrificed my well-being, even sacrificed my feelings. I've been in situations where like I was hurt or I didn't agree and I kept my mouth shut because, I I either didn't feel safe to voice my opinion or I didn't want to upset the other person, but deep down I was suffering. And, I thought if she ever came to me and said she felt unsafe or felt like she was like she needed to sleep, she needed to eat, she needed someone to protect her, I would not even flinch for a moment in stepping in and doing that for her or making sure she had that, right? It'd be no question in my mind. But then when I flip that same script on myself, I go, okay, but why am I so quick to sacrifice my own sleep? Why have I been so quick to make excuses for other people in challenging situations where really I should have been honoring my needs and my feelings? Like, why again am I not treating myself like I am valuable and I am worthy? Even though on a conscious level, I quote unquote know I am, but my behavior isn't supporting that, right? And I think that is the biggest game changer for people who really understand what it means to achieve at a high level, but also want to do it in a sustainable way and also understand that a truly successful life doesn't just mean monetary or fame. It means peace. Like, there is no success to me. You can't have a successful life if it doesn't mean inner peace is also factored in. Like, what's the point of any of it? The rest of it, there's no point to the rest of it if I don't feel peaceful and free within, right? And so I turn this question to you when it comes to this self-worth versus, self-worth question. It's like, are you just saying you know it? Are you actually integrating it? And what I've seen from, myself, from the people I've worked with, that again, it's usually a front. Like, people usually act like they know their worth, or they're trying to hide behind this mask saying they know it. But when they really look at it, they don't treat themselves like they actually believe they're worthy. And that's what leads to the burnout, because you're constantly chasing this goal, building this team, company, project, family relationship, whatever it is, from a place of feeling like you need to prove your worth, not from a place of knowing that you are worthy and therefore you can create this strictly because of that, right? And it's such a subtle, nuanced difference, but it makes all the difference in your quality of life and again, how much energy you have. Because if you are building all these things from a place of needing to prove your worth, your tank is going to run empty. And if you don't get to the bottom of it, you will stay on that hamster wheel and in that cycle of depletion. Whereas if you can build something knowing that this is what you truly desire and deserve from just a healthy standpoint, that's a whole different battery pack. And you'll realize that in the process of doing it, you're not going to deplete yourself to the point of frustration, exhaustion, suffering. Like, you'll realize that the path of building it won't look that way because the two aren't in alignment, right? Someone who really knows their worth and integrates it would not let themselves get to the point of so much self-sacrifice that they look like a shell of a person. And honestly, that's a comment I've heard from many of my clients, and I felt that way. People come to me at a point where they go, and I will quote this again. One of my clients, Jessica, she said, when we first started her journey, she said, I feel so strong, yet so weak at the same time. And it's because people know that they have it within them. They know that they have the skill set and the tenacity and the drive and the ambition to make things happen. Yet, because they've been doing it for so long from a place of needing to prove their worth, now they feel like a shell of a person and they feel, completely out of sorts within, exhausted, disconnected from themselves because they haven't been doing it from a place of alignment. And so, how do we shift this? How do we fix this? Right? Like, how do we start creating paths to bigger goals, bigger ambitions, more success in a way that is sustainable and that really comes from the right motivator, which in my opinion is always internal, from an internal motivator of knowing you are worthy, not from an internal motivator of saying you have to prove your worth. Now, are you going to have to maybe quote unquote prove your capability in the marketplace sometimes, yeah, like that's a real thing. Like if someone's going to hire you for a job, it does help to know that you've got some experience, right? But also, everyone has started with no experience, right? Like the people who are the best at what they do in the world started from nothing. But the point is they started and they stuck to it, and they built up the experience to a point where it was now easy to show that they were capable of completing a job or making things happen or whatever the case is. But again, what makes the journey of doing that sustainable and not feel so dreadful inside is the fact that they do it from a place of knowing, like, I am worthy, I am capable, and I'm going to build this from that sense instead of building it from a place of insecurity and fear, right? So if you're in this place right now of feeling burnt out, feeling exhausted, feeling lost, maybe questioning, do I want to stay at this job? Do I want to stay in this relationship? Do I want to stay in this city? And you don't know where to go. And also you're trying to make a decision from the valley, which means you are, again, burnt out, probably quite dysregulated, which means poor sleep, exhaustion, fatigue, irritable, all the things. Um, First off, from a physiological standpoint, your the part of your mind that's required for critical thinking, problem solving, it's shut down. Just so you know, like it's not even online if you're in survival mode. So it is not the best place for you to make a decision from first. And I always advise my clients when they start to work with me that the first part of the journey is getting you back to ground zero. Most people come to me when they're heavily in the red. And so my goal is always to get people back to ground zero as fast as we can, so that that part of your brain that is necessary for critical thinking and problem solving can come back online. And now we have a broader scope for what is possible. We are less irritable. We can see things with a clearer vision. And now we can start to make some more grounded and more, no, I don't want to say educated, but more grounded and just more insightful and intentional decisions for ourselves. Okay. The first step in getting there, though, is realizing that you need to integrate your self-worth, not just know it. Okay. And that starts with, how do you talk to yourself? Right? When internally you're saying, I need a break, do you give that to yourself? When internally your body's going, I want to have enough energy and fuel for tomorrow, or even for today, you're choosing healthier foods. And like, because here's the thing, when you feel like shit, you treat yourself like shit. Let's just be honest. And you might not even realize it. You're probably saying, oh, I'm just too lazy to cook a healthy meal. Oh, I'm just too lazy to go to the gym. Or I'm too tired to go to the gym. Or I'm so burnt out, I don't even want to see the people I love. Like, those are the things you're saying, and those are the excuses you're making because you're so burnt out. But really, on a deeper level, what's happening is going, I am spending all day long doing things out of alignment. Okay. Not doing things that replenish me, not doing things that are for me. And I'm spending 8 to 10 hours a day doing that. And then when I do technically have a choice, well, you always have a choice, but when I have some off time now to choose the things that replenish me, I'm not even choosing them because I've just spent all day telling myself that what I really want or my needs or my well-being aren't important. And therefore I continue to treat myself the same way at night. Like, that's essentially what's happening. And I lived that. Like, when I was at the height of my career and I was working so much and making a lot of money, and thinking that was the trade-off, I was irritable. I was not kind to the people I love. I wasn't doing the things I love. Like, I wasn't dancing. I've been a dancer my whole life. I wasn't working out as much. I'm skipping the dishes all the time, meaning for my American clients, the same thing as Postmates. I'm ordering food all the time. You know, I'm cutting myself from all the things that we know on a basic human level are the most healthy for us. Healthy connection and a relationship, pivotal to your quality of life. Healthy food, pivotal to your quality of life. Exercising, pivotal, like things we know that are so important. What to take care of something, again, going to the LeBron James example. LeBron James because they know his value is getting a personal chef, is getting a personal trainer, is doing all the things necessary to keep the integrity of that value. I'm not doing any of that shit for myself because I'm spending all day subconsciously disconnected from myself and not doing things that are actually for me. And then when I have the option to, I'm just continuing to treat myself like crap. Right? So if we truly want to integrate our self-worth, and by the way, this is when everything shifts. When you start to treat yourself as valuable, the rest of the world will shift to adapt to that, okay? The first thing we need to do is look at how we're taking care of ourselves. So if I know, back to my niece, I'm going to make sure whenever I talk to her, I, to the best of my ability, am speaking from a kind, compassionate, loving voice. I need to be able to do that for myself. If I, when I go to feed her, want to make sure I'm giving her whole foods and not giving her too much sugar or chips or crap, I'm going to do that for myself. If she tells me she's tired and or maybe she's a little cranky, I'm going to tell her, hey, honey, do you want to have a nap? Do you want to lay down? Okay, great. If I know she's got school tomorrow and she does best when she goes to bed at 8:30 instead of letting her stay up till 9:30, I'm going to do my best to make sure she's in bed by 8:30 because I know that is setting her up to have the best day at school tomorrow so she can enjoy the day with her friends, she can learn, and she can get the most out of being a kid and love her life, right? Like, no question. And I'm sure if you're listening to this, you would not even question what's in the best interest of your kid, right? You have to treat yourself the same way. If you truly want to integrate your worth, because again, I never question my niece's worth, right? That is nothing she will ever have to question in my life, how much I love her, how much I'm willing to protect her and take care of her. Like, she will never have to question that a day in her life, whether she's being an angel that day or she's being maybe a bit of a brat, right? My love for her will never, ever change, right? So that has to be the same with us. We have an inner child. And our inner child, by the way, is who learned all these behaviors. We need to treat that inner child with the same love and care that we give our own children, nieces, nephews, whatever, right? And this is easier said than done. Again, I caught myself the other day. I had a conversation with a friend about something that was a little touchy. I have gone through some things recently that again, just a bit of a touchy subject, and she had given her opinion about it in a way where I know she loves me, but I felt like she was kind of downplaying the severity of the situation just by some of her comments. And um, in the conversations we had, I felt like what I truly wanted from her as a friend was I just wanted her to understand where I was coming from and just say, hey, regardless of whether I think the severity of the situation is one or the other, like, I just care that you feel safe and you're okay. That's what I wanted her to say. And she wasn't saying that, right? And so we had a conversation about it, and I had an opportunity to voice that to her and say, hey, my feelings were hurt yesterday. And as my friend, I just wanted to hear you say, like, hey, I just hope you're okay and I'm here for you. Right. And instead, in the conversation, I tiptoed around it and I talked about the situation, but I didn't directly say how I feel. Okay. And I got off the phone and then I realized to myself, I'm like, you weren't fully honest in that conversation. And not that I was trying to point a finger at her or start a fight. That's not it at all. What it was to me was showing that by holding my true feelings back, I was treating myself as they weren't valid. And again, that doesn't mean, like, I'm a firm believer in that if you have feelings about something, that doesn't mean it's the truth or it has to dictate your behavior. But it also doesn't mean you have to suppress them. Like, suppressing emotions and feelings is one of the fastest tracks to burnout and autoimmune disease. Like, there's so much studies on that. Okay. So, but again, like, I wouldn't have had to say that to start a fight or to blame her or make her feel bad. The point of me saying that would have just been to show that I honor and value how I feel. Okay. And so I thought about that after we got off the phone. And then I thought about it, and then I woke up and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna voice this to her. And I told her, I said, hey, I really appreciate you calling me to talk about this, but I wasn't fully honest, and this is how I felt. And she understood it and she got me, and it was a great, you know, moment for our relationship, and I love her so much, and I know she loves me, and it was just really healing and great for both of us. Um, but for me, more so, it was great for my relationship with me because it showed my inner child, like, hey, when you tell me you feel a certain way, I'm going to take that seriously. Again, just like we would do with our kids. If my niece comes and tells me she feels scared, I'm going to take that seriously. I might try to tell her, like, hey, honey, it's okay. There's nothing hiding in the dark. There's nothing underneath your bed. But if she comes and tells me she's scared, I'm like, okay, I understand. Right? Like, I'm at least going to validate how she feels, and then I'm going to try and support her through it. And it's something as simple as that. Like, if we don't take the time to honor our feelings, again, that doesn't mean we let them dictate our behaviors, but if we don't take the time to honor that, honor our needs, listen to that inner voice that's typically the most quiet in our head, if we don't take the time to do that, again, that's how we show that we actually don't value our worth. And this is what reinforces the behaviors of perfectionism and needing to feel like we need to always show up for everyone and people please and overachieve, because that's the only way we have any value. So what I would say is this is a opportunity for you to really look at your relationship with yourself and really your self-worth. And I'm here to tell you, first of all, you are worthy. Like, there's no question and doubt. You are one of one. You're the only person on this planet that is you, that thinks like you, looks like you, the whole package. And for that alone, that's what makes you worthy. But it doesn't matter if I tell you. You're the one who has to believe that and integrate that. And I think that is one of the, you know, God-given lessons that every human has to deal with when they come to planet Earth. I think that's just part of our karma as humans. I think that's part of our lessons. And while all of us are dealt different hands, I think that's just to what degree you have to learn that lesson. And everyone has it, and it shows up in different forms: relationships, money, friendships, health. It all comes back to self-worth and how you feel. And again, when you start to truly integrate that lesson, which, by the way, I think it's a lifelong lesson. I don't think one day you just all of a sudden know it. I think there's just like deeper levels to go with it. When you start to strengthen that belief and knowing within you, your world will shift automatically. Your internal state is what dictates how the external world looks. Okay. So how much money you make or don't make in your life is a self-worth thing. The quality of your relationships, a self-worth thing. The quality of your health, a self-worth thing. The type of opportunities you're getting, self-worth. Like, it all comes back to the same thing. So saying that, don't feel embarrassed. First of all, every human's going through the same thing in some varying degree. Okay. So the people that you think you look at online have everything together, I guarantee you there is one part of their life where they're dealing with this same concept. Okay. And then the next thing is, use this message as a opportunity to start to shift the relationship with yourself, right? Because I promise you, that's the number one relationship you'll ever work on. And it might sound cliche, but it's the truth. And now with this work I've done, when I see people going through really, really hard times and perpetually, like, we're all going to have moments and seasons of that, but when people who stay in perpetual cycles of doom and gloom, I always know that's just because they are so disconnected from themselves. And that's it. And not to downplay it, because when you're in it, it feels like the world's ending, but to also empower you to know that you have all the power to shift that. Like, when you shift the relationship with yourself, when you shift your nervous system, your ability to tend to your needs, how you take care of yourself, the external world can't help but shift to match it, which means the people you're dealing with, the opportunities that are showing up, they're going to show up to take care of you the way you take care of yourself. Okay. So it is not enough to just say, you know, your self-worth. You have to integrate it. If you truly want to master this thing called life, if you truly, that might even be too big of a statement. If you truly just want to you just want to live life. You want to feel like you're actually living it in a way that feels purposeful and fulfilling. And not every day is going to be happy. And some days are going to be sad, and some days you're going to be angry, and that's just inevitable. But if you want to feel fulfilled in your life, this is the way you do it. I promise you. I've seen it time and time again. I've done it with myself, and I've just seen the effects of, the more I treat Minh-Thu like the star player, the more I honor my feelings, my needs, all of that, the more the universe continues to repay me in ways I didn't even think were possible. And also, the universe continues to remove things in my life that aren't in alignment with treating me that way. So, I hope this helped. I hope that you continue working on your relationship with yourself. And I hope you take this opportunity to really just make you the star player and never question your worth.